Hi, this is Gaetana Nesbitt. Welcome to my framework presentation for EDSP 448. So, what are you going to learn in this presentation? Well, you're going to identify and understand Universal Design for Learning, as well as the Danielson Framework, and we're also going to look at a lesson plan and see if there's any curricular barriers and how to identify and look at the principles for each of the Universal Design for Learning and the Danielson Framework, apply and do not apply, as well as I'm going to reflect on how I'm going to use these for my future practice. So first, let's do Universal Design for Learning. For the rest of this presentation, I'm going to refer to it as UDL for short. So an overview. What is UDL? So UDL is a framework to increase and enhance teaching and learning for all students. It's based off scientific research and studies of how students learn. It is broken down into 3 guidelines: engagement, representation, and action and expression, as well as each of those is broken down into 4 parts: access, build, internalize, and goal. So let's break down these guidelines some more. First is engagement. Engagement is the why of learning. It is broken down into recruiting interest, sustaining effort and persistence, as well as self-regulation, for the end goal of expert learners who are purposeful and motivated. Just to let you know, these subpoints underneath each of these are examples of how you could get there. Let's move on to guideline number 2. Guideline number 2 is representation. Representation is the what of learning. This is the perception, language, and development and comprehension. In the end, to have expert learners who are resourceful and knowledgeable. Let's jump into action and expression, guideline number 3, which is broken down into physical action, expression, and communication, as well as executive functions, for the end goal of having expert learners who are strategic and goal-oriented. Now let's jump into Danielson Framework for teaching. So, what is it? Danielson Framework is 22 subdomains which are put into 4 main domain categories. It is used to evaluate teacher competency and effectiveness. Let's break down these 4 domains even more. So domain 1 is planning and preparation. This is where a teacher knows what their students need to learn, how she's going to get he is going to get the students to learn, and what they're going to do to check the learning. Next is classroom environment. Is this your classroom is respectful, safe, managing space for these students to learn and feel like they can learn. Next is instruction. Is communication, questioning, debating, inferring, engaging, and using assessments to make sure students are actually learning. And domain 4 is professional responsibilities. It's reflecting on your teaching, talking to other people, growing and developing, keeping up your credentials, everything you should do to be an amazing teacher. So let's actually look at a lesson plan and see if these 4 domains, as well as the 3 guidelines, are met in this lesson plan for UDL, as well as Danielson Framework. Give me a moment as I flip over to this beautiful lesson plan. So first, let's see if all 4 domains are met. So domain 1 is planning and preparation. I believe that is met. So here is the lesson plan. It gives me my learning objectives, my materials, my attachments, so what do I need to print off, my introductions. It gives me time limits for each of these. If I keep scrolling down, it gives me differentiation on how to help different students if it needs to be harder or easier. It gives me the assessment, the review. It comes down and I have my question sheet. I also have my experiment and what I'm going to have students do, as well as my assessment and an answer key. I feel like this goes right underneath prepare and planning for domain 1. I believe domain 1 has been met. Let's look at domain 2, classroom environment. Well, in here it doesn't really say what kind of classroom environment the teacher already has, but based off of this, they're going to be doing a lot of different things. They're talking, they're going to be painting, they're going to be doing stations, as well as the teacher's going to have them write in notebooks. So I'm going to feel the teacher's going to have the environment pre-prepped for the students to be able to do all this. So I'm going to go with the classroom environment is met for domain 2, thinking that this teacher will do this, because I would. So domain 2 has been met. Let's move on to domain 3, instruction. Is there communication with students? Well, let's see. There's tell, there's ask, there's tell, using, have, ask. I believe this has been met. There's some communication with students. There's questioning. Well, up here in introduction, it says ask students if they know. Or maybe down here, it's ask your students to identify. Ask your students what they enjoyed most. I believe domain 3 has been met, as well as showing reflectability, like look at the enrichment and the support. Domain 3 has been met. Let's move on to domain 4, professional responsibilities. I say yes. So first, let's do something easy. Ask them if they enjoyed the lesson. That's a little bit of reflection, not to mention, look at all this reflective space. CWI taught me you put a bunch of space like this at the end of your lesson so you can write a reflection to yourself on what you thought about the lesson, what the students thought. I believe that's been met here. Plus, if you come all the way up to the top, I got this lesson plan from education.com. It's a beautiful website where they can share different lessons and what they are with other teachers for free. It's awesome. And look at this. It tells them what this is about to go beyond the textbook environment. It gives you the name, who's it's by, for the grade, what it's teaching. And then it gives you all of this on a website for teachers to share with other teachers lessons that work with kids that kids enjoy. I believe Domain 4 has been met. So, all in all, I believe Danielson Framework's 4 domains have been met with this lesson plan. Woohoo! Go lesson plan. Let's check out now the 3 guidelines. Let's start with engagement. So let's see if we can meet the 3 parts for engagement. Recruiting interest. Is there somewhere in here where the students are being recruited for interest? Well, they're telling the students they're going to learn about rocks. They're asking them if they know these different types of rocks. And then, ooh, he or she's going to play a song. That can be fun. So I believe there's a little bit of interest there that can be met, especially if the song's visual. We can throw on some captions. I'm liking it. Let's see if there's sustaining effort and persistence. Let's see. Pardon me, I apologize. So is there communication, feedback as a group? Well, here they're going to be sitting in a group and talking. Let's continue down. They're hands-on here. Here they're painting, some more hands-on. They're writing in their books. Oh, and they're talking some more at the end. I believe effort and persistence have been met. And there's varying demands as well, which is found here. There's not a lot of feedback in between, so I feel like for engagement, that part can grow. So, like check some learning in between, that can be added in for that. And for self-regulation, there to me is none. So I feel like there needs to be some timers, maybe for the stations, and maybe for the assessment, have the students take the assessment in the beginning and then take the assessment at the end so they can visually see how they've grown. So I believe engagement's been met at a proficient level, but still has a lot more to grow because I believe every teacher should be at advanced. Let's jump on and go to representation. So let's start with perception. Offering different ways to display the information. Let's see. So we tell, so that's going to be some auditory. Oh, we're talking auditory. Well, here's some more auditory, but possibly a visual. Okay, and during the teaching we have some hands-on, some more visual as well as auditory, and more visual, some more hands-on, as well as here we're doing some writing. Well, let's take a look at the paper. Oh, we have words and pictures. I like that. Some more words and pictures. So, I believe perception's been met. Let's look at language and symbols. I believe that's been met with our key terms over here. Okay, let's look at comprehension. Is there background knowledge, guides, and they're maximizing? I believe comprehension's where we're going to need some help. Doesn't really tell me what their background knowledge is going to be. They just kind of jump right into it here, if you know what I mean and if you're following me. So I believe comprehension is going to need some growth here. So I'll put representation at a proficient level. 2 out of 3 isn't bad, but there's still room to grow. So let's move on to action and expression, physical action. Are there varying methods for responses and navigation? Is there access to tools and assistive technologies? In all honesty, I give that a big no. I think this differentiation part might be the closest you get to it. And yes, I know it's been proven that if you have students help students learn, it's better. As a teacher, you should be a guiding hand and not front stage, center court. But I do feel like there could be more supports here and different ways for students to learn due to their different disabilities or what they need. And I don't believe that's met here. For example, for a lot of these, you have to be able to listen or write or move your hands. What if a student can't? There's no background here. Then again, it is a very general lesson plan, and you probably would write that in more if you had that student, but I still think it should be prepped for you don't have to do it when that student comes. It should already be ready for them. So I would like to see that grow. Let's look at expression and communication. Is there multiple media used for communication, multiple tools, building different fluencies? I think yes, because they do different types of learning. There's visual, auditory, hands-on. I believe yes, that has been met. Executive functions is a guide to appropriate goal setting, support and planning for strategy development, and enhancing capacity, for monitoring progress. I say a big fat no. Again, the assessment doesn't really help. There's no self-monitoring. I also don't feel like there's a goal for the students. I mean, the teacher has a goal right here, but the students don't really have a goal. The students are just kind of told, hey, we're learning about rocks today. Got it? I think maybe you should write the actual learning objective up here on the board. Like, this is our goal. As soon as we're done with this lesson, this is what you're going to have learned. So I give action expression a below proficient level. I think it needs to grow a lot in order to be where it needs to be for UDL. So all in all, I say for this lesson plan, yes, the domains have been met for Danielson's framework, but no, the UDL has a lot of curriculum barriers that are not allowing that to happen, which meaning they have to be able to listen, able to use their hands, able to listen, able to use their hands, able to write, so many different things that maybe not every student can do. Not to mention, look at all of this. You have to be able to read. You have to be able to look at a photo. What if you can't read or look at a photo? I feel like there needs to be, maybe have this if your student only speaks Spanish, and maybe you have to print it in Spanish. Maybe your student can't read. There should just be these visuals where a student can point and tell you what kind of rock. I would put that in there because here's your goal. Students be able to describe and identify different types of rocks by their observable properties. Nowhere in your goal does it state, oh, a student has to read. So make it so students can reach this goal and ignore everything else. Let's jump back into my presentation. Reflection and future practice. What am I going to do as a teacher in the future? I'm going to apply both of these to my best abilities. I fell in love with UDL when I learned about it at CWI, where I first went to school. I fell head over heels for it. I am a big believer in every student is able to learn, and every student should be able to learn, no matter what. And you should put them in their best ability, best foot forward to do so. I believe these two frameworks allow me to do that, and used together, it makes me grow and my students grow more than anything. So yes, I will be using both of these to my best abilities, and I critique them, and I already critique them everywhere I go. I get yelled at in my classes all the time because there's a lot of kids in my classes be like, oh, we'll just have the students draw a picture. And I'm like, well, what if a student can't draw? That's not fair. Well, then we'll just have them write. What if the student can't write? Oh, well, Gaetana, we'll just have them, I don't know, read the story. Well, what if the student can't read and doesn't speak English? You need backup plans to your backup plan to your backup plan in teaching. And I just get laughed at and told, get out of my group. So I move on and I make my lesson plans be able to cover all of that because I believe as a teacher you need to be able to do that. Lastly, here's my works cited of all the fun websites I used. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you walked away with something. I sure did. I loved every moment of this, and I love learning all these different things and actually applying it and looking at a lesson plan. I can't wait to write one and actually do this for realsies. I'm so excited. Thank you again for listening, and I hope your weekend is fabulous.